On this episode, we discuss how soybeans are in R4 and the different conditions we're seeing. Our 2021 product guide is being packaged up and sent out to farmers. We're doing 1 ton a day, and Turk mentions warmer weather next week. Stick around for the corny joke. Joe has a positive message about parking spaces.
Hi, this is Joe Merschman. Welcome to Cup of Joe, Season 3, Episode number 2. Today we have our regulars back, Tommy and Turk and Ben. We're going to start with Ben. Ben's always out there in the field. In fact, I think you went up to Wisconsin this week, didn't you?
Yep, I just got back from Wisconsin about midnight on Thursday night or been Friday morning. So it's been a good trip. Got to see a lot of beans. Got to see a lot of good things. We had a field day for a couple of our dealers up there, and it's always good to get out and see what things look like in the different regions of the world. So I think the majority of the soybean belt in our sales territory has reached R4, if not moving into R5. And I just kind of wanted to talk about how critical that time frame is and explain some of the things that we're seeing in that time frame. So we are now at the point where soybeans need the most amount of water. Mm-hmm. So this is usually where the deficit starts to come in because, you know, at this time frame we've depleted our excess moisture, and the beans are sucking up as much moisture as they possibly can to start filling pods. So we have a lot of pod fill going on. And we're starting to see, remember a couple weeks ago we talked about those yellowing spots out in the field, mm-hmm. and those compromised areas because we had too much wet conditions. On my trip up to Wisconsin, I could see it and I could point it out in every single field because we had a field that we looked at here in Lee County. If we start to see these, they're not yellow anymore, but they're in the same spots. They actually have a white appearance. We're actually starting to see drought stress in those areas that held water because they have a compromised root system. They may not have enough nitrogen. We're now at the point where the beans are trying to fill rapidly. They're trying to pull as much water as they can, and they don't have the root system underneath them to pull that off. So if you're looking out across the field and you're seeing those white areas, you're actually looking at drought stress from what I've seen. So that's a little bit of a negative. There's not very many of them, but it's in the areas that required so much moisture. The other thing that we see this time of year, rapid moisture uptake, and which matches our cool, wet conditions that we had at planting, is we're starting to see sudden death come in. Now, it's anecdotal evidence because I've only looked at a handful of fields. I haven't been out and broadly got to see a large number of fields, but I haven't seen sudden death show up. The foliar symptoms I haven't seen show up in sultro-treated fields. So I don't have my box completely checked, but the fields that I have seen in, every single field that I have seen the peppering out through the field where we see the interveinal chlorosis, mm-hmm. So basically the stuff in between the veins turns yellow. You split the stems to make sure it's not brown stem rot. Every single field that I've been in has just been a standard treated field. It doesn't have a levo or sultro on it yet. So I think it's doing its job. We're gonna definitely spend more time out in the fields and hopefully less time on the road, being able to look at those beans because I really do want to make sure we have our check mark, our last check mark in place because we got the beans out of the ground fast. We didn't have any phytotoxicity. We're not seeing nematode pressure in any extreme senses, and now we just got to make sure it works against the sudden death disease like we think it's going to. And we're going to finish off with some high yielding beans. And the other thing I wanted to talk about just a little bit, we had a lot of heat mm-hmm. in June. June felt like July. July is kind of feeling like June. Those short beans that we were dealing with, I mean, I'm walking in a lot of beans that are, 4 foot tall beans, 4.5 foot tall beans. It's going to take a lot more moisture. I'm just prepping guys and warning guys. It's going to take a lot more moisture to keep those leaves green than it is for beans that would have been a lot shorter if we would have had a drier season to start off, a drier, cooler season to start off all the way through June. Beans definitely caught back up. There's not very many beans that are waist high and below at this point in time out in the countryside from what I've looked at. So just keep that in mind. We're going to need probably an inch to another 2 inches of rain in some of these super bumper crop looking spots that we have to finish out these beans, because this field, the plot day that we were at yesterday in Wisconsin, you see all of these there's probably 2 nodes left that are still podding and flowering, and they have 4 pods per cluster, 4 pods per node, and they look like they're setting up really nice. And I don't know about what you guys have seen in the past, but those top 2 nodes, those top clusters, if you can get the rain to fill those out, that's worth 5-7 bushel on top, and that just makes the beans finish phenomenally. So I think if we can get another rain and finish that stuff off, we're looking at a very, very good soybean crop.
Yeah, it's a little bit drier in the western half of Iowa. That's probably where they're hurting the most. And I was talking to some folks out there this past week, and they said some of their beans are shrinking because of the dry weather. So it's not that's probably the toughest area right now is west of Des Moines right now. It looks like.
Right, and I haven't been west. I've been mainly south and east of 35. So things look good.
I think they got a little bit of a rain this week.
Yeah, I think it was Thursday or so. A little bit in western Iowa, well, southwest Iowa, got a little bit of a sprinkle, a little bit of a system that came through that was, because they're pretty dry yet over there. So
And don't count beans out. I mean,
Absolutely.
they can continue to get rain. I mean, they'll start to put big beans in at this point in time. They may not have 4 bean pods and 3 beans pods, but they'll put heavy test weight
Compensate by
beans in.
seed size. Yeah.
Correct.
In those dry situations. Tommy, I know you're working with the sales team, and lots going on since we announced our pricing on August 1st. So bring us up to date.
lots of excitement, Joe. A lot of new customers coming on board too. So that's we welcome them to the Merschman family. So wheat sales have been going very strong. We've already sold out of a couple products, but we got a couple more of our flagship products that we've got big piles of. So make sure you keep those orders coming in and filtering those through your ASM. Also, we sent, Joe just let me know this morning, 1 ton a day of seed guides are hitting the mailboxes, and we're sending those mailers out to several lots and lots of farmers in all of our area here in the Midwest. So I think we're going to finish up with Illinois on Monday. So after that, that'll be Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Kansas,
Nebraska.
and
Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee.
Yep. So
Indiana.
So we'll be finished with those on Monday. So that be the fact that if you're in any of those other states, that means they're hitting the mailboxes now. And we've already gotten some calls, which is very exciting. A lot of guys like the opportunity to see what Merschman's is all about.
So seed guides headed your way. If you farm 250 acres of soybeans or more, you will be getting a Merschman seed guide in the mailbox in the next few days.
Yes. So in Illinois, we'll be finished up, but a lot of excitement generating. I can't believe the first week of August it seems like a blur already, but we've accomplished a lot of things already so far. So I'm proud of the dealers and the ASMs. Keep doing what they're doing, but I think the girls in the office here are going to have the phones ringing off the hooks, taking down information where these seed guides are being sent to, Joe.
Well, there's a lot of interest in dicamba alternative with the heavy dark cloud over the registration of dicamba for post-application next year, and then of course the Extend Flex, which is Liberty added to the mix, and that's still hung up in the EU, and there's just no word on that. So it does give our Merschman seed dealers and a little bit of advantage today. It could change tomorrow, but and also farmers are looking for alternatives, and we have some great alternatives with LibertyLink GT27 and Enlist E3. Great genetics, great products, and good supply. We're not twisting anybody's arm to buy seed prior to harvest, but we say, hey, it makes sense if you want to save some money. So
I agree 100%, Joe. I think a lot of these guys are a lot of new customers that are coming on board. They really appreciate the independent feel and the ease of doing business with Merschman Seeds. So,
And don't be pressured by that salesman that does show up your door and say, hey, if you don't buy today, you may not get another chance tomorrow. Don't be pressuring that. That's the car salesman mentality. So do your homework.
Yep.
And make sure that you're not being high pressured to make the sale. Absolutely has to happen today.
There are a lot of providers out there that are very out of position. It's very sad, but I'm glad that we planned, and thank you, Ben and Joe, for doing that.
Turk, what do you have for us?
Warming up a little bit this weekend, Joe, so that's not necessarily a good thing. It's going to cause some additional stress in these dry areas that Ben was talking about, and again, we need a little rain to finish this crop.
We need some rain and some heat, really.
Well, we need heat especially for the corn, but I think the end of next week they're talking a pretty good shot of rain coming across the Midwest. We'll see if that develops. It's a long ways away in today's forecast, it seems like, but hopefully that happens. But the temperatures are supposed to, just be more normal coming up here the coming week, and so that's good news. But other than that, the crop looks as good as I've ever seen it, and everybody should go out and take some pictures of their crop in the field right now with their family, with their dad, with their brother, whoever. Go out and take those pictures in those fields right now, because there's a lot of awful good-looking fields out there.
You know, Turk, that's in farming. We tend to just so focus on the end result and getting things done. We sometimes forget about those pictures, and 20 years from now, that picture with your dad will mean a lot to you.
It will.
Yep. Well, I want to talk about something that Turk and I do personally. A lot of times we travel to meetings. One night we go together, and I'm going to talk about parking spaces, okay? Which you may find, okay, Joe, you lost it, okay? Well, I haven't lost it, but because I have a little bit of something I want to tell you about how to get through life here. When Turk and I travel somewhere, and we're headed to the hotel, and I go, Turk, where are we going to park? And Turk will tell me every time, right up front. And it'd be one of the ones right up front. And you know how rural people are. We don't like to walk anywhere. We want to park as close to the front door as we possibly can. That's just the way rural people are. Now, I mean, when you go to the big city, you don't. For some reason, you'll walk blocks and don't think anything of it. But if you're in your local little town, if you can't park right in front of where you want to go, you get kind of torqued off. So Turk told me, he says, there will be a parking place right up front. And I go, how do you know that? And he says, well, it's positive thinking. He says, whatever you think will happen. And I said, oh, I don't know about that, Turk. And sure enough, we pull in that parking place and that hotel, and there's a parking place right up front. And I laughed, and Turk laughed, and I go, Turk, I think you got that right. Well, we did this several times over the years. One time, we did not get that parking place right up front. And I said, Turk, it doesn't work. And he said, Joe, what'd you tell me?
I said, Joe, you weren't thinking positive.
Didn't pull your weight.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that, we have a lot of negative things going on in this world right now. So we've got to stay positive, and we got to think positive. And since we're doing this parking spot mentality, I thought my joke of the day would tie in with that. And this is a little bit like reality too. A man was driving in his car, and he was struggling to find a parking place. So he says a little prayer. Lord, I can't stand this. If you would open up a space for me, I swear I will give up drinking and I will go to church every Sunday. Suddenly the clouds part, the sun shines, and an empty parking spot appears. Without hesitation, the man says, never mind, I found one. Well, thanks for your business this past year, and we look forward to working for you this year. We hope you and your family are safe and healthy, and we'll see you next week. Take care.